we're going to go through the whole process of uploading and opening and editing your photo, then saving it and submitting it. So that's the whole project. Doing it all in one video, trying to go fast. So most of us are going to have it on our phones. AirDrop is a great way to get it off of your phone. To do that, you'll need to go to AirDrop under Finder. Make sure that it's switched to everyone is discoverable rather than no one. And you'll be looking for what your computer is. To find your computer name, go to the Apple About This Mac, MacBook Pro, well, you'll have a different one, but more info, and then it'll give you the name of your computer. It'll be WHS 1240 something. And then when that pops up, you'll see a place to drag and drop it, or you'll see it on your phone that you can click and send it to. It'll then send it to your downloads. Conversely, if you don't have a way to AirDrop it, you could just save it to your Google Drive and then download it, and again, it would be at your downloads. So, once we have our image that we want to edit in our downloads, what you'll want to do is right-click, open with, and then depending on the year, I think most of us have 2024 right now, click Adobe Photoshop. What you should see is it open just like this. You should have a toolbar along the left. You will have adjustments here, and you'll have your layers here. There's a histogram at top, and if you don't see any of these things, you can just go to Window and click them back on. So we're going to edit this with a Camera Raw filter. Camera Raw in general is designed to accept and edit unedited images. So I showed you that you can take unedited, unfiltered images with your phone by clicking that Raw Max button at the top. Most of us are still going to be working with HEIC or JPEG files, and they'll look just like this. So to get to being able to edit with Camera Raw, we're going to want to start by duplicating our background layer. So just right-click, duplicate layer. Okay? So now I have two identical layers on top of each other. Now, this would be a great stage to give yourself a little insurance and right-click on that top layer and go Convert to Smart Object. We'll see why that's valuable in a little bit, but this is going to allow us to make changes and keep our settings after our first round of edits. So with this top layer selected, we're going to go Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Now, in my particular case, there's another Camera Raw filter up here. This is just whatever your last edit was, it'll do it again. We're making new edits, so we'll go Camera Raw Filter here. And it'll open up this window. This is the window where we'll do most of our work. So a quick layout again. Here's our image. We have our histogram. So it's easiest to see on this one. Our histogram charts out the different types of values. You'll notice that this is a dark image. Well, we can see then that in our shadows and at the very end our blacks, there's a huge spike. There's a tiny little blip right here at the very brightest spots. This is a pretty unconventional layout for a histogram. They all vary. A more bell curve-like shape is more common. So first thing I want to show, we have our auto and our black and white. If I wanted to make this image black and white, and I'll show you what that would look like, we'd click this. Auto can get it better, but depending on your specific goals, it might ruin it. So if you're trying to do a dark image with a specific highlight, this will probably average it out too much for you. We'll start off with the color window. So there's a bunch of sliders and they're pretty straightforward. Exposure deals with the overall exposure, how light or dark it is. And you can see the histogram change accordingly. I think this is going to be a little too dark for what we want to do. So let's bump it a little. Contrast. That's going to make the lights lighter and the darks darker. So turning that up and turning it down. Highlights deals with this highlight range. Let's zoom in to see. Highlights up, highlights down. This could be pretty helpful because we want this to be bright but still retain some detail. Shadows, again, what you think it does. Looking at our shadows, it lightens our shadows or darkens our shadows. And whites, the very brightest areas, either go lighter or darker. Blacks, it'll be tricky to see in this particular image because the darkest stuff is already so dark, but it'll lighten or darken those darkest areas. Now, one more helpful thing when looking at the histogram and these sliders are these two warnings, if you click those arrows. Those are our highlight and shadow clipping warnings. So any area that's blue is blown out pure black. That's not good. I would say having just the tiniest amount of pure black would be appropriate for this image. And our whites, anywhere that is pure white is going to be indicated as red. In our case, little to none would be good. And when you're done and satisfied with that, you could turn them off so they're not distracting. All right, this is a pretty dark image still. I think we can get away with bumping our shadows and our exposure just a touch more, just so we do see all that nice texture. Check our highlight clipping warning. It's blowing out now. We'll back that back down. Okay, let's move on. We're not going to do all of these, but we will hit the highlights. Color. So 4 sliders to be worried about here. Temperature. As the slider indicates, it can make an image warmer or cooler. This is pretty neutral as is. If we wanted to create an effect of maybe warming or cooling it, we could. Tint, similar again. Sometimes images shift to magenta or to green, and sometimes you have to balance temperature and tint together. So vibrance and saturation. Well, they'll give me a quote right here. Vibrance changes the saturation without causing unpleasant color casts. Move it right to change the color without oversaturating. So let's look at saturation first, and it's pretty easy to understand. I can make my colors really intense or basically black and white. Vibrance, it'll again increase the saturation, but not, you know how like his skin went like immediately like orange with saturation? It hasn't done that. And if you lower it this way, it'll retain some of the more saturated colors. All right. Effects. So these also kind of do what they sound like they do. There's lots of amazing textures here. So the texture slider is going to either increase them or decrease them. Let's bump it a little bit. Clarity is the same thing, except a little bit higher. Let's read the actual definition. Changes the contrast around the edges of objects. So not the tiny details, around the edges primarily. We might want to play with this one too. So clarity up a whole bunch, clarity down a whole bunch. I think a little. Dehaze. Dehaze will be totally inappropriate for this image. I bet it's like a picture of a mountain that they show. Nope, misty waterfall. It's again the same thing, but it just goes too extreme almost all the time. So I rarely use that unless I genuinely have a hazy image that needs kind of cleaned up. Vignette, this could be a candidate for vignette. So vignette will lighten or darken the edges of a photo. My kind of rule about that is I don't want to notice it. Darkening the edges a little bit will help draw the attention subtly in, but you know, that's too much. What if we just back it out to like here? You're not going to notice that, and it does help draw in the attention. Grain, rarely is it appropriate. This is, I don't know, this could be one of those spots though where it adds artificial grain. Normally not a desirable thing, but this is kind of a grittier image. I don't hate it. There's only a couple to mess with from here. We're going to skip over curve because theoretically our brightness and contrast has already been addressed. Color mixing. Okay, so there's 3 categories. Hue, which changes the color. Let's look at his blue jacket. I can make it more magenta, as you can see. or more teal. Skin tones, also shiftable. I think for this image, the more relevant thing will be saturation. So the blue jean jacket is kind of blue. I could make it very dull, or if I want to make it pop a little bit more, I can turn up the blue. This is particularly useful if there's like a red distracting truck in the background. Just drop the reds. Luminance, it's brightness. So I can, again, back to that jacket, lighten up the blues or darken the blues. Lighten the blues. Let's lighten the blues a little. My reds, not a lot of red in this image. Okay. There will be another image that I'm going to show that I think we see stronger examples of this. And then maybe detail could be helpful, only because it's got noise reduction. We added a little of that grain, but if you had too much in your image, noise reduction will do a great job taking it out. Now, there's a lot of other features that we can do here, but again, keeping it simple for most of us, we can go right to, I think this is probably all I'll show you, is our masking. So usually, well, all these tools have a great spot for them. Objects will select an object pretty darn well, but the simpler, no, the simpler one to use, I think, is going to be the brush. So I can change the size of my brush. I can change how much it fades. I can control how intense it is with density. But it's going to let me make all those adjustments that we just saw, but in select areas. So if I brush over here, I can say, all right, I want that actually to be lighter. Let's do a new one altogether. So you can see just where I'm brushing. So it'll lighten just that area, and you can adjust it after the fact. If I wanted to darken it or lighten it. If I wanted to say, all right, I really want to cool off, create a new mask with the brush. I really want to cool off and increase the saturation of that jacket even more. I mean, that's over the top. So why don't we just back that off a little bit? Don't cool it quite that much. There are other ways to do it. You know, you can do it as a gradient. That's particularly useful for skies, or we saw selecting objects. It's pretty darn smart at selecting skies and people and things like that. So you can make an adjustment to like just one silhouetted person or something like that. Another neat feature is you can see the before and after. But when you are happy with that, simply hit OK. And then there we are. We've got our layer we edited. We have our original layer. If we decided we wanted to go back because, you know what, I'm second guessing how much vignette we put on that, just double click on Camera Raw right here, please. And all of our settings, so that would have been in effect, are still there. So we can reduce the vignette some, drop the grain a little bit. Now we're a little bit happier. Other edits we can do outside of Camera Raw. Well, cropping is outside of Camera Raw. Let's center this up a little bit. Hit the check mark up here to confirm. We also can do some spot healing. So it's really pretty darn smart. It's right here. It's the spot healing brush tool. Hotkey for it is J. Looks like a Band-Aid. Again, you can adjust up here the size of the brush. But I don't know what this little thing is, probably just like a bolt in the wall. Oops. It's going to say, oh, you can't proceed because this is a smart object. Do you want to rasterize the smart object? Meaning, do you want to make it not smart? Do you want to make it just normal pixels? If I'm done editing, okay, that's fine. Not all warning labels mean you can't proceed. So you just brush over the thing that you want to remove, and it removes it. Let us say I don't like that button. It's removed. Fly away little hairs, removed. So it's pretty darn smart. There are things it doesn't excel at, but it's pretty darn smart. I don't think, apart from maybe identifying the magnifying glass for zooming, there's a lot else you have to know in here, at least not for an introduction. Maybe just saving is what we want to do. And that should be the same as what we've done before. File, save a copy. And it'll be our last name, and then practice in this case. I'm going to save it to downloads, just because. And then format, you want to make sure it's switched to JPEG. Save. Sure, I'll replace. I don't remember what the other one was. And then the medium JPEG size is probably going to be the best for uploading and downloading for us. Hit OK. Then it's just going to be a matter of me going to my downloads, where I should, I saved it to downloads, right? We all saw that. Okay, there it is. It's just in a different spot because I think I replaced it. But then you're just going to drag and drop it to the class's Google Drive folder. In this case, Camera Raw Practice. And 28 minutes left. Well, we're not going to wait for that. So that's all the steps. I'm going to end the video, and I'll do another quick run through on this one, maybe allowing you guys to work along, but ultimately you'll do both. Okay. No, video not ended.